Hey everyone, welcome back to Raising Humans, Not Robots. So, this is a hard one. I've been avoiding recording this episode for 3 weeks because I don't know what to say. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Today we're talking about layoffs. Specifically, how to explain layoffs to your kids when you don't understand them yourself. And before you think, oh, this doesn't apply to me, stick with me. Because even if you haven't been laid off, even if your job feels stable right now, your kids are seeing this everywhere. They're hearing it, they're absorbing it, and they have questions. Last week, my son asked me, Mommy, what happens if you lose your job? And I froze. Because what do you say? How do you explain something that doesn't make sense to you? Let's figure this out together. First, let's talk about what kids are actually asking and what they're really worried about. When Liam asked me, what happens if you lose your job? He wasn't asking about severance packages or unemployment benefits. He was asking, will we be okay? Will we still have our house? Will I still go to my school? Are you going to be sad? When Ria overheard me on the phone talking about layoffs at another company, she asked, why do they fire people who are good at their jobs? She wasn't asking about corporate restructuring. She was asking, is the world fair? Can bad things happen to people who do everything right? These are big, existential questions wrapped in small, simple words. And here's what I've learned. Kids aren't looking for complete explanations. They're looking for reassurance and honesty. The problem is, we don't have much reassurance to give right now, and honesty is terrifying. Let me tell you about the night I thought I was getting laid off. It was a Thursday. I got a calendar invite for a one meeting with my manager the next morning. No context, just 15 minutes, please join. I spent the entire night spiraling. This was it. I was done. 12 years in tech, and I was about to become another LinkedIn open-to-work post. The next morning, I got the kids ready for school like a zombie. Liam kept asking me questions, and I barely heard him. Ria said, you seem sad, and I snapped, I'm fine, in a way that clearly communicated I was not fine. I dropped them at school and sat in the parking lot, waiting for the meeting time, feeling like I was waiting for a diagnosis. The meeting started. My manager's camera was off. That's never good. He said, I wanted to talk to you about the restructuring. My heart stopped. Then he said, your role is safe, but we're letting go of 3 people on the team, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. Relief, guilt, confusion, all at once. I wasn't laid off, but 3 people I worked with every day were. Good people. People with kids and mortgages and lives that were about to be turned upside down. That afternoon when I picked up the kids, Liam asked, did you have a good day at work? And I had no idea how to answer. So here's what I learned from that experience and from talking to other parents who have actually been laid off. 1, kids already know something is wrong. You can try to hide it, but they can feel your anxiety. They can hear the tone of your voice change when you talk about work. They can sense when you're scared. So pretending everything is fine doesn't protect them. It just teaches them not to trust their own perceptions. 2, you don't have to have all the answers. When Ria asked, why do they fire people who are good at their jobs? I wanted to give her a satisfying explanation, but I don't have one. I don't understand it either. So I said, I don't know, sweetie. Sometimes companies make decisions that don't seem fair to me either. And you know what? That was enough. She nodded and went back to playing. She didn't need a complete economic analysis. She needed to know that her confusion was valid. 3, separate the facts from the fears. This is the big one, and I got this from my therapist, who's been helping me navigate my own anxiety about job security. Kids need facts, age-appropriate facts, but they don't need to absorb all of your fears. So when Liam asked, what happens if you lose your job? I could have unloaded everything. We'd lose health insurance, we might have to move, we'd pull you from after school, everything would change. But that's my fear talking. Those are possibilities, not certainties. Instead, I said, if that happened, it would be hard for a little while, but adults have plans for these situations. Daddy and I would figure it out together, and we'd make sure you and Ria are taken care of. Is that the whole truth? No, but it's the truth they need. Okay, let's get practical. Because you're listening to this for a reason, you need to know what to actually say. Here are some scripts based on what I've learned, and what's actually worked for me and other parents I've talked to. If your kid asks, "Are you going to lose your job?" Try, "I don't think so. But if something like that ever happened, we'd handle it together as a family. My job is to make sure you're taken care of, and I will always do that." What this does, acknowledges the possibility without catastrophizing, reassures them you are the constant, not the job. If your kid asks, "Why did Mia's dad lose their job?" Try, "Sometimes companies decide they don't need as many workers, even when those workers are doing a good job. It's not fair, and it's not about whether the person was good at their work. It's about the company's decisions." What this does, validates that it's unfair, protects the person who was laid off from blame, acknowledges adult decisions are sometimes confusing. If your kid asks, "What happens if we don't have money?" Try, "We have enough money for the things we need, like our house and food. If things ever got tight, we'd make some changes, but we'd be okay. That's what families do. We figure things out together." What this does, provides reassurance without making promises you can't keep, emphasizes family as the safety net. If your kid says nothing, but you can tell they're worried. Try, "I know work has been stressful lately. I want you to know that even when I'm worried about work stuff, I'm not worried about us as a family. We're going to be okay." What this does, names the elephant in the room, separates work stress from family stability. Just as important, here's what not to say. And I know these because I've said some of them and regretted it. Don't say, "Everything is fine," when it's clearly not. Kids can smell bullshit from a mile away. If you're stressed and scared, they know. Saying, "Everything is fine," just teaches them you're not a safe person to be honest with. Don't say, "I'll never lose my job." You can't promise that. None of us can right now. Making promises you can't keep damages trust. Don't say, "It's because the company is greedy." Even if it's true, even if you're angry. Kids don't need to absorb your rage at capitalism. They need to feel safe, and hearing their parent rant about corporate greed doesn't make them feel safe. Don't say, "This is just how the world works," because that teaches them to accept unfairness as inevitable. You can acknowledge that layoffs happen without teaching them that injustice is just the way things are. Now let's talk about the hardest scenario. You got laid off. Now what? I haven't experienced this personally, but I've talked to 3 parents who have in the last 6 months. Here's what they told me. First, tell them quickly, before they hear it elsewhere or sense something is wrong. One mom waited a week to tell her kids. She thought she was protecting them. But they noticed she was home during the day, noticed her crying in her bedroom, noticed the tension. When she finally told them, they said, "We already knew something bad happened." Second, keep it simple and age-appropriate. "My company decided they didn't need as many people working, so I don't work there anymore. I'm looking for a new job." That's it. You don't need to explain restructuring or market conditions, or whatever nonsense your former employer said. Third, name the feelings, yours and theirs. "I'm feeling sad and worried about this. You might feel worried too. That's okay. It's okay to have feelings about this." Fourth, tell them what will stay the same. This is huge. In a moment when everything feels unstable, kids need to know what they can count on. "We'll still live in our house. You'll still go to your school. We'll still have dinner together every night. Those things aren't changing." Even if you're not 100% sure about all of those things, tell them what you're doing everything in your power to keep stable. Fifth, let them see you problem solve. One dad told me he let his kids see him updating his resume, preparing for interviews. He'd say, "I'm working on finding my next job," with the same matter-of-fact tone he'd use for any other task. It modeled that this was a solvable problem, not a catastrophe. Here's what I keep thinking about. What are we teaching our kids about work? When they see us terrified of layoffs, when they see us treating job loss like a moral failure, when they absorb our anxiety that we're one bad quarter away from disaster? What lesson are they learning? Are we teaching them that work is inherently unstable and terrifying? Are we teaching them that their worth is tied to employment? Are we teaching them that the world is fundamentally unsafe? Or can we teach them something different? Can we teach them that jobs end sometimes, and that's hard, but it's not the end of the world? Can we teach them that their value as a person has nothing to do with whether a company decides to keep them? Can we teach them resilience, not the toxic, everything happens for a reason kind, but the real kind? Bad things happen sometimes, and we figure it out. I don't know. I'm still figuring this out myself. But I think the answer starts with being honest with them, while also being their safe place. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. 1. Your kids are already picking up on your stress about job security. You're not protecting them by hiding it. You're just making them confused about what they're sensing. 2. You don't have to understand layoffs to talk to your kids about them. You just have to be honest about what you do and don't know. 3. Separate facts from fears. Give them age-appropriate information without dumping your anxiety on them. 4. Focus on what stays the same, not what might change. Kids need stability, even if it's just knowing that family dinner will still happen. 5. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to tell them you're worried or sad. Just also tell them that you're handling it and they're safe. And here's the biggest thing I've learned. Our kids are going to grow up in a world where job security doesn't exist the way it did for previous generations. We can't protect them from that reality. But we can teach them that their worth isn't tied to their employment. That uncertainty is part of life. That families stick together when things get hard. We can teach them to be humans, not just workers. And maybe that's the most important thing we can do. If you're listening to this because you're terrified of losing your job, I see you. If you just got laid off and you're trying to figure out how to tell your kids, I'm thinking of you. If you're trying to explain this to your children when you don't understand it yourself, you're not alone. This is hard. There are no perfect answers. We're all just doing our best. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with another parent who might need to hear it. Leave a comment telling me how you've handled these conversations with your kids. I want to learn from you too. Next week, we're talking about something a little lighter, I hope. The guilt of saying no to your kids when you're too exhausted to say yes. Until then, take care of yourselves. And remember, you are not a number. You are not a resource to be optimized. You are a human raising humans. And that matters more than any job ever could. Thanks for listening.